I've landed a job at a publishing company and have been there for 10 years. I became a section chief in the sports newspaper department and got married 2 years ago through an office romance. Just when I thought everything was going smoothly, something unexpected happened. One morning, as I arrived at work, my boss approached me with a smug grin. I can't stand this guy. He lives to nitpick others, sniffing out the slightest mistakes to report to our manager, Keith. It's hard to tell if he's here to work or just to find fault with others, as he hardly does his usual job. I don't know why such a person holds the position of section head. And today, as usual, he comes up smirking. "Hey, Ethan, Keith wants you in the first conference room." "Got it," I replied, and headed straight for the room. I knocked on the conference room door and heard Keith's voice, "Come in." "Excuse me." As I opened the door, the heads of the sports department and the HR department looked at me. First, Keith asked me, "Ethan, do you know anyone at Johnson Publishing?" I had no idea, so I said, "No, I don't." Then Keith dropped a bombshell. Our exclusive scoop on Mike, a pro baseball player's move to the majors, was published as a scoop by Johnson Publishing. No way. I had spent days in a bar that Mike frequents to get that scoop. How did it get announced as Johnson's scoop? "Chuck says you've got a friend from your university working at Johnson Publishing, right? Could it be? Am I being suspected of leaking information to an employee of Johnson Publishing from my alma mater?" "But Keith, I really have no clue. I didn't even know about the employee from Johnson Publishing you're mentioning. I wouldn't just hand over a scoop I worked on for months to another company," I explained, but Keith's expression remained stern. Then the HR head, Jonathan, told me, "With Chick's testimony, we can't just take your word for it 100%. Until the dust settles on this leak, you're assigned to work at a regional branch." I couldn't believe my ears. A regional branch, in a place without a pro baseball team. And there's only a slim chance they even have a pro game once a year. At least there's a high school baseball team that's a regular at the Nationals, so maybe I can write about that. But this is clearly a demotion. And so, I was transferred to the regional office from the next week. Coming back from the meeting, as expected, Chuck approached me. "So, Ethan, you're going to be the head of the sports section at the regional branch. Wow, congrats." I glared at Chuck. "Why did you make up such a lie?" "It's no lie. Todd from Johnson Publishing. He's your junior from university, isn't he? It's not wrong. Haha. I don't know a Todd at Johnson Publishing. I don't even know if he's from the same university. I have no acquaintance with him at all. Stop spreading rumors." As I said this, Chick's grin grew wider. "I just stated the facts. It's not my business how the higher-ups decide." That's when I realized I had been set up. He intentionally hinted to Keith that Todd and I went to the same university, suggesting some connection. And he pinned the leak on me. This is nonsense. But getting angry won't change the facts. I'm being transferred. When I got home, I told my wife, Michelle, about it. She was shocked. "What? The countryside? Starting next week? Isn't that too sudden?" "Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I'll be able to return to the headquarters after a few years, but as long as Chuck is in the sports department, it might be hard to come back." For a while, Michelle just sat there thinking. And then she said something unbelievable. "Let's get a divorce." "What? What do you mean, get a divorce?" Then Michelle, with a cold expression I'd never seen before, said, "Because I just can't stand the idea of living in the countryside. Leaving New York is out of the question." "So, you want me to move alone?" Her reply was even more astonishing. "Move alone? No, I mean divorce. Divorce. A demotion with no guarantee of return to headquarters means your career's over, right? There's no point in staying with someone who's got no future." Everything went dark in front of me. Is divorce really considered this easily? Just for falling off the career track? I married you thinking you were promising and secure since you became a section chief in your 20s, but being banished to a country branch, unbelievable. That made it clear. Michelle didn't love me for who I was. She married the title of a young section chief at a major publishing company, likely on the fast track to success. After hearing Michelle's cold words, my feelings cooled off fast. I didn't feel like trying to make her stay or convincing her otherwise. We really did become strangers again, just like that, with a single piece of paper. After that, I packed up my things within a week and moved. On the evening I moved my stuff into my new apartment, I decided to head to the supermarket, a 10-minute walk away, to grab some dinner. At the prepared foods section, I picked up some pizza for dinner and some pastry for breakfast the next morning. When I left the supermarket, it started to drizzle. The rain quickly turned into a downpour. Felt like a squall coming. By the time I got to my new apartment, my hair and shoulders were pretty wet. As I hurried inside, I noticed someone in the alley next to the building. Someone was crouching down. "What's that?" I approached and saw a drenched woman sitting there. She might be ill. I hurriedly asked her, "Hey, are you okay? Are you feeling sick?" The woman slowly lifted her face. She was pale, her eyes vacant. "This is bad. Should I call an ambulance?" "No, first I need to get her inside." "Hey, I live on the 3rd floor of this building. There's a laundromat on the 1st floor. Want to dry off your wet clothes? You'll catch a cold like that," I offered. I'm not a weirdo or anything. Here's my business card." She took the card, looked at it, glanced up at my face with a start, then nodded emotionlessly. At the entrance, I handed her a towel and some sweatpants and a hoodie, and showed her to the bathroom. "Take your time changing. Feel free to use the shower," I said, closing the bathroom door. After a while, the woman came out. "Thank you, I'm sorry," she said, bowing her head. "No, are you feeling all right now?" "Yes, I'm sorry to worry you. It was just a little fainting spell from anemia," she replied. I made some coffee and we chatted as we drank. I introduced myself, mentioned I'd just moved in that morning, and that I'd be starting work at the publishing company the next day. To my surprise, she said she worked at the same company. "My name's Samantha. I guess I'll be working under you, Ethan. I'm in charge of accounting." "Wow, really? I'm surprised we're at the same company. It's nice to meet you. I just moved in, so I don't really know anything yet." After that, she shared more about the company, and we made small talk. She seemed to relax knowing we worked at the same place, and she opened up quite a bit, so I decided to ask something that had been on my mind. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but why were you in that alley?" "Yes, I've actually been dealing with a stalker." "A stalker?" Samantha explained that she had been harassed by a stalker for several months. Even today, she felt she was being followed from the station. She had reported it to the police before, but they said they couldn't take action without evidence of a direct attack or similar harm. Today, just a few yards from her home, someone tried to grab her arm, so she threw her umbrella at the stalker and ran into the alley. That must have been scary. As Samantha's face grew dark recalling the event, I made a suggestion. "If it's okay with you, would you like to walk home together starting tomorrow? I can escort you from the office to your house since it's nearby." Her face lit up instantly. "Really? That would be so helpful. Thank you so much." Samantha thanked me repeatedly, looking relieved. The next morning, I went to the branch office bright and early. The floor housed the sports, economy, society, entertainment sections, and also the general affairs and accounting departments. The branch had a completely different atmosphere from the headquarters. Every employee worked efficiently, cooperating to avoid overtime as much as possible. It seemed like this is how companies should be. When I peeked into the accounting department, I saw her face. Just after the end of the day, I approached Samantha, and we left together. That evening, we had dinner at a restaurant she recommended, since she was a local. From then on, we ate dinner together every night. I feel kind of bad, making you walk me home every day. While enjoying some delicious seafood at a place she suggested, Samantha said apologetically, "Nat, it's fine. I'm grateful for the good company and great food in a town I'm still getting used to." She smiled warmly at my response. We spent every evening together, sharing stories about our lives. She had divorced a few months ago after her husband had an affair. Soon after becoming single, she started seeing the same guy at her local convenience store, and eventually, he began following her and harassing her. She was genuinely scared when we met, and she was thankful to have someone to walk home with. On our days off, we started going out for meals together, and she showed me around to the stores with the best deals and the tastiest deli food. Gradually, I began to develop feelings for this incredibly kind woman. This went on for about a week. One day, after work as usual, I walked Samantha to her apartment building. As she entered the entrance and I was about to leave, I heard a woman scream. Could it be the stalker? I thought he had given up following her. I rushed back at full speed and burst into the entrance of her apartment building. There, in front of me, was Samantha being embraced by a man in a black hoodie. "Hey, what do you think you're doing? Get away from her!" I shouted as I twisted the man's wrist, causing him to kneel and fall. I put both of the man's arms in a tight chokehold and said to Samantha, "Call 911. I shouted. "If you come near her again, I won't go easy on you." I grabbed the man by the scruff of his neck and threatened him. Minutes later, the police arrived and arrested the man, who was found to have a stun gun and a box cutter in his pockets. "Thank you so much," I comforted the trembling, crying Samantha, assuring her it's all going to be okay now. The stalker would probably be locked up for a while. But Samantha seemed deeply affected. "I'm scared to enter my apartment alone from tomorrow." She started crying as she spoke through her trembles. I reached out to the real estate agent for my apartment building. They mentioned there were 2 vacancies at my apartment now. "Samantha, it's a bit cheaper compared to here, but there are empty apartments in my building. How about moving in?" I suggested. "So, does that mean I'd be coming home to the same place as you, Ethan?" She looked me straight in the eyes as she said it. "Yeah, if you're in the same building, I can make sure you get home safely every day." Her face brightened with a smile as she said, "Please, introduce me to the real estate agent." That weekend, the whole office helped with Samantha's move. The newspapers had run a story titled "Hero from New York Thwarts Stalker," so that became the talk of the day during the move. It was good to see my martial arts training from my student days come in handy. Since moving into the same building, Samantha started bringing over stew she had made in excess, saying she'd made too much. I've got this subtle feeling that a romantic sentiment is starting to sprout between Samantha and me. Neither of us has said anything about it yet, but I really enjoy the time I spend with Samantha now. Being demoted and then divorced before coming here, I was honestly just shocked, but now, I think it was all part of the right course of events. Word on the street is that my ex-wife has been making advances on Chuck, and when Chick's wife found out, it caused a scandal, leaving Chuck out of the company and my ex-wife in a mess with a lawsuit. Hearing that, I couldn't help but think, well, karma's a thing. I'm about to make a fresh start here. And I'm determined to never let Samantha go through such fear again. I want to protect her smile.